Tuperos y tuperas. By the river, it is officially the end of the 2021 MLS season as the MLS Cup capped off on Saturday afternoon. We'll discuss NYCFC's triumph and winning the MLS Cup. We're now in the off season as Charlotte FC had their expansion draft. We'll recap what went down in Bank of America Stadium, and then of course the schedule is out. We'll be looking at the Philadelphia Union's entire schedule for the regular season 2022. Our guys will be telling you where they'll be for this upcoming year for some of these great matches away. And of course, guys, you do not want to miss this episode because we got a lot to get to here today. And ladies and gentlemen, let's get this started, guys. Dale! And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Dupe by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And, of course, we are brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we move on to today's episode, ladies and gentlemen, real quick, thank you so much for tuning on in, whether you're coming from Philly Sports Network or El Parcero Philly's YouTube channel. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe. Dupe by the River is always going to be live on both of these channels, and you do not want to miss any of our crazy thoughts when it comes to this Philly sports team. Of course, you can find us wherever you stream podcasts as well. We're on PSN Radio. We have all of your favorite Philly Sports Network podcasts. You can find them wherever you stream podcasts, Apple, Google, and Spotify. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are without Zach Labasa, but let me introduce to you guys our fellow experts in duping. And first off, let's start off with my man, Mr. Tim Lovinguth. What's up, Timmy? How you feeling, brother?
Not much, man. I'm doing all right. Here and just I'm typing away. This offseason is going fast and furious. I can hardly keep up. This week is crazy. It's pretty much like everything that happens in MLS offseason begins this week, and then we have to wait for rumors for the next 10 weeks. I mean, we only have 10 weeks, after this week until the Union season starts again, which is crazy to think as well. So, hey, 73 days until our next match. So, I'm ready to talk some offseason, some schedule. We'll talk about MLS Cup. Yeah, there's a new team that won that, but an expansion draft. Charlotte doing stuff, maybe. Who knows? We'll talk about it all.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, man. Tim, you're typing away like an F1. It's absolutely crazy. So we really want to give you a quick shout out, dude, because you're absolutely destroying the game right now when it comes to writing. And ladies and gentlemen, if I may take this quick second, guys, if you head on over, which I'm sharing the screen right now, and if you guys are listening on in, make sure you guys check out Philly Sports Network. This is the Union section. These are all articles that Tim has been able to write. Really informational stuff, keeping you guys up to date. So make sure you guys head on over to Philly Sports Network and check that out. Tim, thank you so much, man. You've been killing it, brother.
Thanks for the shout out, man. That's awesome. Thanks.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And of course, he always brings the freaking nicknames, Tim. And ladies and gentlemen, our other expert in duping, please welcome Justin Garber, Allocation Money Friedberg. That is the most beautiful looking game you'll ever see, ladies and gentlemen. What's happening, Justin?
I'm ready. And Tim, talk about Fast and the Furious. If you want a Union segue for that, Too Flock, Too Furious.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. I'm ready. Let's go.
Top miler the match, every match.
Exactly. Yeah. Listen, we knew this offseason was going to be quick, and the silly season with the trades and the transfer rumors already and coaches. I mean, it has been a whirlwind, and it literally, as soon as everything was official, it was like, boom, trades that already were locked in, but now we're official, and coaches and expansion drafts, and it just honestly, it makes you even think okay, man, this season is right around the corner, and it feels that way.
Yeah, it really does. And if we may, gentlemen, let's mention FC Cincinnati. They've been trying to poach everything in front of the Union front office, including our coaches, but they don't get Jimmy. But instead, they settle with Pat Noonan. I just real quick want to say congrats to Pat. I really do feel like he deserves this opportunity. And what better than not getting Jimmy? You get Patty, right?
Yeah, listen, we all knew, and all the reports confirmed that they never even got close to Jim. The team was like, no, not happening in a million years. And the contract was worded as such where there was no essentially there really was no release clause because it was like, hey, there's nothing you will pay that will pry him from us. And Pat has deserved this. He's been an assistant for a long time. He's really deserved this. Although I do got to say to Chris Albright, like, dude, if you wanted to be Philadelphia, you could have just stayed here. Like, really, I
he's not
trying to be us, but then there's like trying to be the Union, and then like going like, oh, I'll just instead of like taking people that that might fit that same idea, I'm just gonna take the people that I already worked with. It's like, Chris, come on, man. Like
that's a good business model. I don't know.
Be creative, man. Be creative, man. Get your own shit.
Justin, I don't know if you heard, but this just in, Chris is also thinking about taking Fang along with him to Cincinnati.
Listen, I'll fight Chris. I don't care. I'll throw a whole bunch of Skyline chili at him. All right, let's go. Listen, you take Fang. We throw hands. All right.
Man. Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. Well, you guys ready to talk about some more displeasure? MLS Cup on Saturday afternoon, 3:00. Shouts to those who had to fight off Army Navy fans to watch the MLS Cup. I was at a family friend gathering, and I had to watch the MLS Cup on my little iPhone here, and had the Army Navy right on the beautiful flat screen TV. It was all good. I will say it was entertaining. It brought the drama. You brought the drama. You brought some of the parody into the game. It was obviously a 1-1 match. Had to go into extra time. Had to go into shootouts. And shouts to Steve Clark, man. He got ripped apart, man, by a lot of fans.
He has man, I feel bad. Steve Clark, man, 2 MLS Cup finals. He has if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck. I mean, my God, what a header by Tati, but if it's not raining really super hard there, I think there's a pretty good chance he makes that save. It just you saw it hit his whole hand and then squeeze, and you're like, man, if that's not wet, that ball's pinning on the ground.
I have to say though, that whole sequence, just to get into the match of how New York City scored that first goal. What was it? Blanco, right? Is that not Blanco? Sorry, who was it?
Maxi?
No, the Portland defender that committed the foul for the free kick. I'm spacing his name.
It might have been Blanco. It might have been the outside back.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name. It doesn't matter. So he committed the foul way far away from goal when New York City wasn't even in their possession. They were just starting to have possession. He committed a foul at the field, and then he was marking Tati and let him run free. So while Steve Clark probably should have made the save, that defender whose name is spacing me, which is probably okay since he made those 2 mistakes.
Zuparik?
No.
Van Rankin.
Bravo or Van Rankin?
It was their other outside back, and I'm spacing his name still.
Van Rankin?
I got you. We got you. If my laptop wants to be quick enough.
Bravo. Bravo. Thank you. I knew it started with a P.
I said Bravo.
I missed it. I'm sorry, Justin.
I thought I heard Blanco too, but hey,
not like I'm not here, man.
It is what it is. But still, he made 2 mistakes in 10 seconds, which led to the New York City goal, which Steve Clark probably still should save, but it is what it is.
Can I ask you guys, would you consider Steve Clark a top 10 goalkeeper in this league?
I'd say yeah. Okay. I think in terms of you look at overall, his numbers are still pretty good. So I think he's one of those guys that I think he flies under the radar, but I arguably believe that he could be considered close to a top 10 goalie. So I'd say yeah.
Whether he is or not, he's played for 2 good enough teams to make MLS Cup twice. So I mean,
good point.
That's something.
Yeah,
that is pretty damn true. Listen, I'll say, because I did see a lot of Union fans kind of put down the NYCFC win. Look, it sucked, and I tweeted it out too. It really did suck watching NYCFC win because we obviously don't like those guys, but I can't take away what they did. Especially beating the Revs. I know this whole bye week stuff is really killing number 1 seeds. I mean, we felt it. But, they took care of business against us. and they got the job done against Portland, a really good team. So I really can't knock this. I can't do the whole asterisk thing either. I just can't do that personally.
I mean, for me, it's not that I put an asterisk on that. They won. That's not what I argue. For me, what stings is looking at the Eastern Conference final and then looking at the MLS Cup final and going, oh my God, with a healthy squad, we're beating both these teams.
I don't know though.
I think that's like looking at what Portland did. It took Portland, and I think the Union could have organized the same way. It took Portland 95 minutes to finally put one past Sean Johnson. Yeah. Like, I think it feels like the Union would have put up I think they would have put up a pretty good fight against Portland. I think that's what stings more than anything. Isn't like, oh well, NYCFC was like, well, it's like with a healthy squad, it feels like. I think that's for me is the big thing. Is like they won, and I will give props to it, and also shouts to Alexis and Christian, our buddies.
Dude,
they what a week, man. They were partying and
deservedly so.
Man. They absolutely deserve it. But like, man, that would have been so great to have been there. Like I was ready to go to Portland, man. So like, I think that's what stings for me more than anything.
I think real quick, the thing, if the Union made it and played at Portland, I think Portland approached the game entirely different because they knew that NYC loves to dominate the ball. So they said, okay, we're a good counter team. We can possess the ball, but we're a good counter team. I think if the Union played in Portland, they would play us like they did RSL and say, we're going to control the ball and we're going to allow Blanco and Diego Chara and Jimmy Chara to kind of destroy you guys when we have the ball. So I think the Union still would have put up a fight. It would have still been a very close game. But I don't think that we would have dominated Portland.
Oh no, I just think it would have been like you feel like they could have squeaked out a tight one. Yeah. And if that goes to PKs, I mean, Andre is like, you look at Sean Johnson and you're like, Andre could have easily done that because he did that against Nashville.
Right. Props to Sean John though. Those were, I mean, I know the penalties weren't perfect, but those were two saves. Like he won them the cup and he deservedly got the MVP. So I know I kind of talked some trash on him when the Cooligans were on, and now it is what it is.
I did too, Tim.
Yeah,
I did too. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that it was an absolute great performance by him as well. I just feel like, especially in this sport, there was a lot of momentum on the Union side, the way they won both those games, and you would figure that they would keep rolling like that. I mean, NYCFC also were hot as well. Like I feel like both of us were two of the hottest teams in these playoffs, and fortunately, we just caught some bad luck. But I really wanted to give a shout out here, brother BKL Contreras. Hey guys, do podcast. Keep up good work on your content. Also an NYCFC fan. Big shout out from Ryan Anderson. Anderson. Shouts to Ryan, good friend of the podcast. I'm sure we'll be catching up with him the next Toronto game, which we'll be talking about later on, gentlemen. But real quick, just a little bit of some stats for the MLS Cup. Obviously, we're looking at the big picture here for our league. Some stuff that was brought out by, I believe, Stephen Goff, the soccer insider.
Yep, from the Washington Post.
Yeah, 1.4 million views. 10th. First, it came out that they were first. Philadelphia was the number one market in the United States, but then another thing came out by Steven. We were number 10th, but still top 10.
I think we were like tied for 7th. It was a weird allocation.
Okay. So it was a big mix up there, but regardless, the fact is Philadelphia was in the top 10 in viewing the MLS Cup, which is absolutely
That's because bonkers. We love pain. We love pain. We want to see the team that just beat us in the Eastern Conference Final lift a trophy that we probably could have lifted. Yeah.
If being a Union fan isn't being a self-masochist, I don't know what is.
This is awesome, good stuff. But listen, there's been some serious growth throughout these years. We always been talking about it on this podcast, but like we have the numbers to kind of back it up as well. You guys know my point. I think that this MLS Cup could be done like as an entertainment factor, can be done so much bigger. And I think once that time comes, I think the numbers could be crazier because look, we still lost out to. I mean, obviously it's gonna be tough to beat out the NFL, but we're talking regular season. We're not talking playoffs. We're talking regular season, and we got beat out by Army Navy. But No, I just really, again, great job by the MLS. I mean, the game had a lot of entertainment in it as well, and it's something that going forward, we'll see how this MLS Cup definitely continues to grow, guys.
Yeah, and I actually saw something at one point that they did a study, and I think soccer like started surpassing.
Are you talking about the NBC special they did with Jim and
No, there was something
okay.
that soccer was like now like the fourth largest sport from the fan perspective. I forget what study it was, but I think it surpassed hockey or baseball.
Yeah.
In terms of popularity, and they said in large in part to the younger generation that like have grown up with the Messis and the Ronaldos and like and all the the Neymars and Mbappe's like, and it's so soccer is for all the people who are like, oh, soccer is not a real sport and it's not a popular sport. A lot of these stats would say otherwise.
And you know what else too? I think that has a lot to do with the growth of the internet. I think that back and like I remember hearing stories from like older heads who love European soccer, and they used to have to pay to get into a bar to watch like Liverpool Man U. And I think the accessibility to watch any league you want at any time, like I'm sure Justin on a Saturday afternoon, if he's got nothing to do, he's watching third division German soccer if he can.
Oh yeah, no,
we have the accessibility to.
If whatever is on, like I will look at FOTMob and I will go through and see what's on TV and see what I would like to watch. And typically on a Saturday, yeah, you can watch soccer all day. But yeah, I remember back when I was a kid, and like you would be lucky if you found through like the grainy channels, if you like somehow pirated on the feed of something, so you watched a random Bundesliga match or a La Liga match. Like the Premier League wasn't as easy to watch back then, and I mean it like I remember I was a Man U fan since I was a kid, and I remember going to Philly for the when the Link opened in 2003. They had a stadium opening tour. It was Man U against Barca. And this was the year that Barca had those really, really ugly tan jerseys. Like 2 weeks after Beckham had just transferred to Real Madrid. And I remember like the stadium was packed. It was like 90% Man U fans. And like this is 2003.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, like, and I'm like, oh, I'm a huge, big soccer. I'm like, wow, soccer's like, I love soccer. And like, I didn't think that people loved it. And to see the growth of it in, my lifetime has even my dad's even said like he never anticipated that soccer would get, this big, and he's been around soccer his entire life. And like when he was a kid, it was, it was the the NASL, the Cosmos, the Fury, the Atoms. The leagues were barely struggling to get by, and now it's like 94 World Cup exploded. So I'm like, the soccer has gone a long way, and I honestly can't wait for the future of it, especially in this country.
Yeah.
And that's why we're all doing this podcast. That's why Tim is grinding away at that writing, because we want to just continue seeing this sport grow, and we just want to be a part of it. We just want to be a part of it. That's all. It's all just a little of that. But guys, let's move on here now. Speaking of the growth of the game, obviously, this upcoming season we'll be welcoming another franchise into our league. Charlotte FC will begin play, and I'm really intrigued of how they'll start their play. But obviously, Tuesday night we had the expansion draft. Now we've been lucky because we haven't had any guys really been picked since 2014. Pedro Ribero from when Orlando selected him.
He was a fun guy. He almost scored a goal in the U.S. Open Cup final. He was the in 2014. He was the one attacking sub the Union had, and then Seattle brought on Obafemi Martins to win the game instead. So
yeah, like that's just how bad the bench was at that time.
Yeah.
Let's go. I love the great old school stories there. But yeah, so we've been pretty lucky. And so before we get into the expansion draft, really quick, kind of what the Union able to do as far as protected players. Obviously, the main suspects: your Alejandro Bedoyes, Andre Blake, Jack Elliott, Leon Flock, Daniel Gazak, Jakob Glesnes, Jose El Brujo Martinez, Olivier Mbaizo, Jamiro Montero, Casper Shabilko, Sergio Santos, and Kai Wagner. And then, of course, homegrowns get exempt as well. So that's Paxton, Brandon Craig, Jack DeVries, who kudos to him for making an appearance at Coppa d'Italia with Venezia. We had Anthony Fontana, Matt Freese, Nathan Harriel, Jack McGlynn, Matt Rial, Quinn Sullivan, Cole Turner, which left Charlotte FC to select from Mace Davo, which is interesting.
Hey, it's 2021 roster. He's still on the
Yep.
roster, man.
Yep.
It would be nice if they would have selected him, but hey. Joseph Bendick, Jesus Bueno, Corey Burke, Aurelian Kalen, Stuart Finley, Elsinho, Matish Arvek, Gino Portela, which I'll be completely honest, guys, I've never heard of him up until now.
He's a Union 2 player who Union 2 players, supplemental players can be on these types of lists. So I don't know how he's the only one that was able to kind of get on there, but he did. So.
Yeah. And then, of course, last but not least, Alvis Powell. So in the end, we survived, like I mentioned. Charlotte would wind up taking 5 players as expected. Oren Mackenzie Gaines, the second, a forward from Austin FC. Anton Walks from Atlanta United, which I'm not going to lie to you guys, seeing Atlanta freak out over this was
they were losing.
A little gratifying.
Yeah, this is another young center back. I believe he's a center back. Sort of like they were kind of hoping for him to kind of be the next Miles Robinson as well. So that's a little rough. Yeah,
man. We have Joseph Mora from the defender from DC United, and then very interesting, Tristan Blackman, the defender from LAFC, got traded to Vancouver shortly after, and then last but not least, Ismail Tajori Sherardi. He was obviously just won the MLS Cup, gets selected by Charlotte, and then gets traded to LAFC. So now he will be part of LAFC. So that's your recap of the expansion draft. Real quick, guys, before we get your thoughts on these picks, I just wanted to get your thought because it's an interesting kind of dynamic that's been going on with these expansion drafts. And obviously, we're going to have more going further in the future. But these teams using the expansion draft in an interesting strategy, obviously – Blackman and Sherardi getting traded away. So this is like an asset builder here for these teams. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the nature of the business. I mean, for all people who complain about that, the contracts are with the league. They're not with the teams. And yeah, you could go, oh well, LAFC and CFC only get 50,000 for this player's getting taken. And it's like, yeah, well, Vancouver and LAFC probably went to Charlotte and said, hey, this player's unprotected and this player's unprotected. If you draft them, we will give you X amount of allocation money to send them to us. And if you're Charlotte, who spent $1 million on 2 international spots, you essentially recoup that right back.
Yeah.
In money. So I think you kind of have to do that. And I think the reason that I wasn't as worried about this from a Union perspective was simply because of the fact that Charlotte had a lot of international spots taken up. And if you look at the entire list of players that the Union had unprotected, a lot of them would have required an international spot.
Yeah.
I think maybe Alvis might have had a green card and Corey.
Yeah.
But that's about it. No one, maybe Aurelian, I think. So
yeah.
And Joe Bendick, and they just traded for Sisaniga from LAFC before. So I wasn't as worried. I think Finlay may have been the only one they could have considered. But with Anton Walks is a guy. Him and Justin Moore are both guys that can play multiple positions. It gives you the tactical flexibility if needed. And Walks is a player that you can, I'd say he could be the captain, him or maybe Christian Fuchs. So I think it's going to be an interesting setup there. And I'm not sure if Charlotte's going to be a good team. I think they could push for a playoff spot. Based on what I'm hearing, early stuff, the way they seem to, to be building their roster. But I mean, it's a lot of smart business. From their perspective, you draft 3 players, you trade two of the 5 players. Really, so you only drafted 3, and you take 2 of those players, out of that full 5, and you trade them for money to get back from the international spots. I'd say I'd say they did a pretty good job in terms of getting what they needed and also using the draft for asset allocation. And I think that's smart from their perspective.
Yeah, I think in years past, when we look at like all the way back to when the Union were an expansion team, they got 10 picks, and instead of 5.
Crazy.
And MLS back then, it was you're not going to have a lot of money to go out and buy players. Players aren't going to come to MLS. So the Union, when they had their expansion draft, they used it on like players that were going to start in their first season. Now, when we've seen these last few years is you get fewer picks, and there's a lot more ways for you to go out and acquire players. So like Justin said, like using 2 picks to flip trades to get money back for international spots that you just paid for, basically to get the same amount of money back. That's good business right now for an expansion team. And yeah, Charlotte, their build right now sort of reminds me of a little bit of Nashville. Nashville's been a pretty successful team in their first 2 seasons. We'll see if Charlotte can continue that. AK Gaming saying those picks are awful. I mean, the ones that kind of stayed with the team, they're like all projects. Like maybe Anton Walks is the only one that can be like I would say maybe penciled in as a starter right now. But yeah, other than that, it's a little rough. You don't get many starters from an expansion draft anymore.
Very true. AK Gaming, name us all of the players that Chicago picked in '97 in the expansion draft. If I may ask you guys, because I saw this on Twitter, and I feel like we need to bring this here.
Yeah.
And again, this is a spicy warning. This is going to be a little spicy little take we're going to have here. But I saw a lot of people saying that Stuart Finley is someone that Charlotte did not touch. The way I look at it, again, love the player. I think he's a great piece. I really thought he was big for the dressing room. You saw his camaraderie with all the guys. I thought that was very important. But I saw a guy who was a solid veteran backup here in this league. Yes, he was playing in front of 2 really good center backs in Jakub Glesnes and Jack Elliott. But this whole narrative that we can't lose him, like it would be done if we lost him. Like, was he that untouchable for you guys? Like, would you be really upset if Charlotte would have taken him on Tuesday?
I would have been upset just because Glesnes and Elliott, they're very good, but I think their time on the Union might be limited in that they could be transferred out in the next year or 2. So I think that window of opportunity of winning really only works when you have 2 very, very good center backs. And I think Finlay could get to that point if he was able to start in place of one of those 2. And I think if you lost him in an expansion draft and then something happened and the team wanted to pay you crazy money for Elliott or for Glesnes and you took that deal, then you really only have one good starting center back and you kind of have to build all over again. That's why I thought it was a little scary. But then looking at the actual situation of Charlotte has all these international players, Finlay's an international, so they're not going to take him. And then there was also the rumor before the draft that they were in on Walks. They really wanted him from Atlanta. So I was like, okay, there's their center back. Like, we don't have to worry. But yeah, I was still a little worried that if Finlay was unprotected, because you need really good center backs to be a successful team in MLS.
What about you, Justin? Was he untouchable?
It wasn't that he was untouchable. I think it just would have further emphasized the need for a backup center back, which I still think you need to sign another one. I don't think Colin comes back this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it shows that. I mean, he had a great game against NYCFC.
He did. He really did.
So I think you know what you have. But yeah, I think there's a good chance someone like Jack, of the 2, I think Jack might leave before Glesnes does. But I think both of them have a likelihood of getting looks from Europe. So it helps to keep Stu. And I think based on who you had to protect, I think if you had left, like, people were like, oh, why'd you protect Ali? If you leave Ali unprotected, he's getting snapped in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I think there's no question. He'd be like when Dax McCarty went to Nashville. Like, I think there's no question he gets snapped up. So I think the Union were being smart and knowing what, because Charlotte was making trades right around the time, before that the list came out.
Yeah.
But I think the Union looked at those trades and went, or those rumors and went, I think we know who we need to protect and who we can kind of let dangle because we're confident that they're not gonna. And the fact that most of the guys that you let dangle had international spots that would have taken up, I think they did a smart thing of saying, hey, if you want this player, it's gonna have to eat up one of the few international spots you have left.
Yeah.
It's a good point you mentioned there about the future sales potentially of Elliott or Glesnes or both. I feel like Finlay's someone that you can find around the world. But we'll see what happens next year when it comes to both of these guys. And again, that's no knock on Finlay. I just think that we could find ourselves another Finlay. But luckily, we don't have to worry about that because we got saved again from another expansion draft, and it continues. We'll see what happens with St. Lou when they come into the league. But good stuff there. But the moment that everyone has been waiting for, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk the Union's 2022 schedule. It was announced today. Exciting. I love it because it's starting to get that feel, like that holiday feel, like schedule release day. Everyone's waiting for it to come out. Everyone wants to print their copy, put it on their fridge, think about what games they're going to. Justin and Tim and I and Zach as well, already thinking about what games are we all going to go to. So what we're going to do, we'll obviously show you the games. We'll let you know what the games are. And then I'm going to ask Tim and Justin, number one, most importantly, what games are they planning on go to away trips? Because obviously Tim and Justin, they are very loyal season ticket holders. Section 139, let's go. Woo! And then, of course, I'm going to ask you guys as well, what is the one most intriguing matchup on paper for the Union this upcoming year? So let's get that schedule up here. And here we go, guys. So here's the 2022 Philadelphia Union schedule. We'll start off with February 26th. The Union will welcome Minnesota United to kick off the season at home at Sub. First game since that Eastern Conference Finals. And that Minnesota United game was pretty crazy up in Minnesota, the Allianz Field. So that should be an interesting one there. We move on to March 5th. We'll be in Montreal for that one. We always know it's a tough one against Montreal, so we'll see how that one looks. 12th back at home, we'll have San Jose Earthquakes coming into town. March 19th, the one that everyone's been waiting for, one I'm sure everyone is circling as well. We'll be traveling to Yankee Stadium to face off against the MLS Cup champs, NYCFC. Yeah, guys, get angry. Get angry when you hear that. All right, so next up, we'll be back at home for two straight. First up, April 2nd against Chicago. Hopefully, AK Gaming comes here with his family. And then we got the Columbus Crew on April 9th. And then we move on to April 16th. We'll be in Toronto for a match. On April 23rd, Montreal will then come here to face us off again in Subaru Park. May 1st, a one that a lot of people are looking forward to as well, and it's going to be on ESPN. We will help open up Nashville's new stadium down there, and that'll be the home opener. Well, I guess the real home opener for Nashville SC as they open up that new stadium, which I'm looking forward to, guys. We move on to May 7th. 6 days later, they'll be in LA against LAFC. Usually the Union do struggle in LA, but remember last time we were there, guys, that wild 3-3 draw against LAFC.
The pandemic. It was crazy.
Dude, crazy to think about. So that'll be on May 7th.
Did Glesnes start the pandemic? Did Glesnes' goal start the pandemic?
I mean, honestly, like all three of the Union goals, Sergio Santos had a banger, Glesnes had a banger, and then Brendan Aronson got a goal. So, I mean,
dude, that was
great
a wild
game. It was
game.
a great game.
Brujo had a nice bloody. That was
he got all spiked up.
Oh my God, I remember that. Was it like at least he went to 3 jerseys?
Yeah. And that game also starts at 11 p.m. at night. So we're gonna be duping at 11 p.m.
That's gonna be nuts.
Hey, we'll do what we got to do.
At least it's on a Saturday and not a weeknight.
That is true. May 14th, it'll be a Saturday as well. Red Bull come down to Subaru Park, and then we have another home game 4 days later. Inter Miami comes into Subaru Park. I'm really intrigued what Inter Miami is going to look like next year.
Yeah.
And then we'll be on the road for 2 straight. This is going to be a tough little road trip. So you got May 22nd against Portland in Portland, Providence Park. And then they got to come back to the East Coast to go up to Foxborough, Massachusetts to face off against the New England Revolution, this new logo that I'll be honest, I'm not really feeling right now.
It's interesting, man.
It is certainly interesting. All right. So then we come back for a back-to-back at home, June 18th against Pat Noonan and Chris Albright and the FC Cincinnati. Yes, I had to do that. And they'll be welcoming on in NYCFC will be coming into town on June 26th.
Hey, my birthday.
That's a good one for you.
Christian Alexis, for you. Y'all be coming down for that game. I'm just saying.
We'll be taking shots with Fang, guys. And then we'll be on the road again, back-to-back, June 29th in Chicago against the Fire. And then we'll be in Columbus on July 3rd. That'll be July 4th weekend if I'm not mistaken. That'll be a Sunday. July 4th will be on a Monday. Interesting. So that'll be on July 3rd. July 8th we'll be back at home against DC United. On July 13th we'll be in Miami or Fort Lauderdale. I'm sorry, against Inter Miami. Then at home we'll be back on July 16th. New England Revolution will come down here on July 23rd. A lot of back and forth. July 23rd, Orlando City we're going to be down in Orlando City for that one. On July 30th, we'll be facing off against the Houston Dynamo at home. On August 6th, FC Cincinnati in FC Cincinnati will be traveling there. That should be an interesting one as well in TQL Stadium. On August 13th, we'll be welcoming on in the Chicago Fire. Then we got back-to-back away games. First one in DC on August 17th, and then we got August 20th August 17th in Dallas against FC Dallas, and then August 20th against DC United. Then we'll be back at home against the Colorado Rapids. Feels like it's been a while since we played the Rapids. We'll be playing them on August 27th at home, and then 4 days later, we'll be facing off against Atlanta United at home. That's going to be interesting. On September 3rd, very interesting matchup, will be in North Jersey to face off against Red Bull, New York Red Bull. That'll be a nice Saturday game to be traveling up to North Jersey. On September 20th, we'll be welcoming Orlando City. September 17th, a nice late matchup against Atlanta United. This is smart by the scheduling committee here, putting this game really late. Who knows what's going to happen at that time, but we already know the flares are going to be on both sides. On August 1st, we'll be in Chicago, and then to end the season in 2022, the last regular season game, we'll be at home, against Toronto FC on October 9th. So this is your schedule, ladies and gentlemen. Get your copy, print it out, put it on your fridge, do what you got to do, circle the games, get your tickets ready, get your travel plans ready, because the schedule is here. So I send it over now to my experts in duping. We'll start off with Tim. Tim, number one, what games are you planning on attending to that intrigue you as far as away games? And the most interesting matchup on paper here when we look at the schedule.
Yeah, the away games for me are usually the three closest teams. Like I can probably swing one of those types of away trips. New York City is one of those teams, and that's in March, so that's probably going to be too cold. We'll see. It's that first game back against New York City, so that rematch of the Eastern Conference Final. Then maybe the DC game in late August. But my first away game was to DC at RFK, and that experience was awesome. And I don't think Audi Field would kind of compare to that, so I might not go to that one. But then the one that's really sticking out is Red Bull away on Labor Day weekend. We actually have a weekend Red Bull game, so those are the three that kind of stick out to me. I don't know if I can really swing an actual like road trip going somewhere else, but those are the three that stick out to me. And then the most intriguing game on paper, and I'm going to go with one that's not necessarily one that people might think. It's the home game against Colorado.
Ooh,
and I knew Justin was probably going to pick that one. I had to go with Colorado because it's the return of Keegan Rosenberry and Austin Trusty. And Colorado was the number one seed in the West last year, and they're a really good team. And I think they're going to build on that form. So it's going to be a true test to see what the Union can do at home against a Western Conference team, because we really haven't seen that much over the last 2 years. They only played Portland at home in 2021. They won that game, but Portland was without like a whole bunch of players from injury. So, some of those Western Conference games stick out, but definitely that one at home late in the season against Colorado is, I think, going to be a big one.
Absolutely. Justin, I know Justin's already planning it, man. He's already looking at flights, hotels, and all that good stuff. What are you looking at here, man?
So I've already, like, as soon as the schedule came out, of course, all the, I'm in multiple soccer chats. You know how I am. I'm always, getting the word out on where I'm going. The games that I know I'll be at, Nashville, because I'm going to be excited to see that when that new stadium opens up. That thing's going to be insane. I heard it's supposed to be the largest soccer-specific stadium in North America.
Okay.
So that will be interesting. Atlanta, towards the end of the season, and Charlotte, because I have family in both. So I think I'm definitely going to swing both of those. Obviously, the Red Bull game, Labor Day weekend. As soon as the schedule came out, our good buddy Matt already said, you better be coming up for the weekend game. You got a tailgate already. I said, you know it. DC, I could maybe swing. We'll see. Those are always kind of, I haven't been to Audi Field, so I'd like to see that. So that wouldn't be a bad one. The game that I'm interested to see, and damn Tim for taking my pick, because Colorado was going to be mine. I was actually supposed to go out to Colorado last year. So that was the game that I'm looking forward to, actually, is another Western Conference team. The home game against Houston.
Yeah.
Just, once again, fired a coach, Tab Ramos. I don't think got a fair shake. That team's getting shaken up. They're making some moves. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a very raw team. I don't know if they'll do well again this year, given all the shakeup, given everything that's going on. But man, that'll be an interesting game. Because whenever they come into town, it always seems to be like very wide open games, and ironically, they're always high scoring. Like, at least lately, like they've always been high scoring. It's just weird to see. So who knows? But that definitely, besides the Colorado game, the Houston game definitely piques my interest a bit.
And that Houston game might have two former Union players in it as well. I can't remember if Derek Jones is still on their squad, but I believe Fafa is still going to be on their team. So that'll be fun.
That defensive winger, Fafa.
Hey, listen, if Union want to play with wingers and they want to be a defensively sound team, then Fafa needs to come back like today.
So. He needs to also finish a lot more.
Yeah.
That's very true. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm definitely thinking of. I always wanted to go to Portland. I'm definitely thinking about that May 22nd game, just checking out Providence Park. But that is a tough stretch of games right there.
Yeah,
Portland and then New England.
Yeah,
and then the one that if you look at that stretch in August, you got FC Dallas, DC, Colorado, Atlanta, and then Red Bull. That's not as easy of a stretch.
No,
outside of maybe DC, that's a pretty hard stretch of games.
And that's DC away, which, I mean, I know we've been dominating them in the last few years, but the Union lost bad at DC in 2021.
I remember that.
So,
remember that. Yeah. Now, what is Dallas going to look like this year?
I can't tell you, to be honest.
Because aren't they still in like negotiation issues with Pepe? Because they like want.
I mean, I think he's still under contract until he isn't. So, that's like kind of how MLS is right now. It's even with those types of players, if they're negotiating with bigger clubs, it usually MLS goes for the sale. But I don't know. I don't know what Dallas is doing. It almost seems sort of like a DK situation, like what Orlando had last year.
Oh no!
I hope that doesn't happen.
Overvalued him and
yeah, maybe. Yeah, a little bit.
Sell and then
it's tough.
Yeah, like Tati Castellanos is being valued at $20 million, or like, okay, that's what a $20 million striker looks like.
I mean, if he's being valued at $20 million, and I believe I saw West Ham was the team that was interested in Tati, NYCFC and actually City Football Group needs to open up their wallets now and take that money.
Justice.
Yeah.
That's absolutely wild. But that Dallas seems crazy. Like, what happened to Paxton Pomacall? Like, do you remember in 2019, everyone was like comparing Brennan and Paxton?
Yeah, people still like put Paxton up there, and I'm like, he hasn't stayed healthy enough to like, like the thing that my dad always says, and my dad can be, Tim knows my dad. He can be pretty blunt when he can be, but he goes like, for all these talented players, he goes, it doesn't matter if you can't stay on the field. Yeah. And you know what? That's the honest truth. Like, for all the promise that Paxton Pomacall's had, he just hasn't stayed healthy. Yeah. It was like when Jordy Mihaljevic, when one of his last years in Chicago, he just couldn't stay on the field. Now for Montreal, he had a bounce back year, and he was able to start really stay on the field and able to contribute. But it goes to show, if you can't stay healthy, it doesn't matter how good you might be. Yeah, you're going to keep stopping, starting, and you're never really going to get momentum, and it's just going to be a bit of a hassle.
Yep,
absolutely, man. Drummond, good question here. We will. I'll definitely.
I got the
Colorado and Seattle.
Go ahead.
Colorado, Seattle, and Montreal. They won
Canadian
championships. So. Yeah.
Should be interesting, man. It's crazy. Are we going to get Open Cup this year?
Yes.
Open Cup should be, and we'll be in
Leagues Cup.
Yeah, and we'll be in Leagues Cup, which is CCL Light.
Yeah, essentially that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't it only Liga MX and MLS?
Or Europa League, I guess. So yeah, it's more.
Or is it Europa Conference League?
Yeah, that might be it. It is just MLS and Liga MX, and I believe it's just single elimination. So
yeah.
It's sort of like an Open Cup, but just
it's like a playoff format.
Yeah, I guess playoffs is a better way to put it. Yeah.
Couple more things here, guys. Have you heard anything about DC United going after less?
Don't read it. Don't read it, Johnny. Don't read it.
Oh jeez.
Another one. Close.
Second time.
Was it Drummond too? Last time?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I did know, because I honestly did see on Twitter someone talking about Dortmund.
There was a 16-year-old kid from PA who's supposed to be signing with Dortmund. Fletcher, Christian Fletcher, I think is his name.
Okay.
Kid's apparently from, I think, one of the same club. I think maybe the same club team that Pulisic came from.
Okay.
PA Classics or whatever.
Yeah. One other point, our boy Owens checks on in. I want to ask you guys now. Obviously, Columbus 2 years ago, MLS Cup champs, missed the playoffs. Now, as of right now, December 15th, 2021, do you see Columbus making the playoffs in 2022?
They have the talent to make the playoffs. Last year was sort of really shocking to me, and I think they're one of those MLS teams that had a rough go in CCL, and to be honest, I didn't really follow them too much once they fell off. They didn't seem very threatening in some of the games, at least that they played against the Union. Obviously, that they played the Union in Columbus in that first game of the year last year, and it was 0-0. But then I believe we beat them at home, like it was maybe 3-0 or something like that. And players who don't usually score for the Union were scoring against Columbus. Like I think Leon Flock scored, and it was a rough year for Columbus. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a bounce back, but I don't know about MLS Cup.
I think they'll bounce back to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
but I think they still have a lot of unanswered questions in terms of signing players. I don't think they're winning. They could be a dark horse, but I don't foresee them winning the MLS Cup.
I think they still have the talent to do so, but yeah, it's all about these roster rebuilds right now. And it's weird too because MLS with the shorter off season now, which is actually I guess good. It's more so like a European off season. Like there's only 10 more weeks after this week until games have to be played. So you got to build your roster now, and I think Owen was saying too they need a fullback. They got to go get that guy.
Awful, yeah.
They got to go get that fullback now and get them to Columbus as soon as possible.
Alvis Powell, I think, is available.
No, he's not. Don't say that. Don't say that. We want him back.
I mean, we got Nate.
I do like Nate. Nathan Harriel.
We got a backup.
Yeah.
Nate
do you think we'll bring him back? You think we'll bring Alice back?
I think right now it's not like you're not bringing those players back. It's just like once that you had to get through the expansion draft, and I think free agency started today as well.
Yeah, he's also a free agent under the new rules, so he could technically be negotiating with multiple teams if he wanted to.
Yeah, so I see them maybe extending him an offer and saying, "Hey, here's if you want to come back."
Yeah, I think there's a scenario here that the Union are sort of playing out with their outside backs. If I may, real quick, we saw the rumor that Kai Wagner wants to go to Europe again.
We didn't touch upon that.
Yeah, we haven't brought it up, but he said in an interview like he would love to go back to Europe, and if there's the right offer in, I think the Union will take that offer, and then I think if that happens, then they're gonna have to think of something there for left back. Like they already offered a bona fide contract to Matt Real, who's out of contract. Like I think if they say, "Hey Matt, come on in, you'll get another shot to start," then that might be it. Or they might offer it to Alvis Powell, who could play there as well. But yeah, I think that whole scenario kind of hinges on whether or not they start getting offers for Wagner.
Yeah, it really is starting to seem a little thin here. Obviously, Tim just mentioned, and I'll bring it up here. This is from Transfer Market. I want to make that step to Europe in January. I want to prove to myself that I can play in Europe. I am honest enough to say that I want to do it now. I can't be mad at it.
He wanted to do it last year too.
Yeah, he said that before. Like, I think not that I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but like, I haven't heard any concrete offers, so they're not just gonna like. If something comes in, I'm sure they'll listen.
Yeah.
But if nothing comes in, then I don't think it's like he's like, I want out. It's just he's like, hey, I think I should get an offer.
He thinks he's proved himself enough at this level to make the next step, which I kind of agree with.
I think maybe another year. I still think.
Yeah, the Union won't budge unless they get at least the valuation for him, which is 3.5 million, I believe. So, yeah, and Ernst Tanner, he's going to be like, well, this is almost like, the best left back in MLS. Like, give me 5. And that'll probably be his negotiating tactic.
I think there's a chance he stays this season and leaves next winter.
I'd be fine with that.
Because I think the end of 2020, like, it definitely soured. Like, that was when he was like, oh, he might leave to West Ham. And then he pulls a stinker. And I think he bounced back this year, but I feel like it might just take another full year because he's still pretty young. So he's still got plenty of time. I think one more year wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
We could be looking at Sorensen as our starting left back in 2022, gentlemen. Huh?
Yeah.
You're excited.
For me,
open.
We'll have to see what he looks like, but that's not in the formula of winning MLS Cup in 2022, which I think is actually attainable now.
Yes.
So
indeed. And listen, I don't think there'll be many offers for Kai. We'll see. There could be a team out there, but I think Kai, yes, can stay here next year. But the depth does concern me because, like you said, Sorensen, we don't know. I think Nathan is ready for this next step, being backing up Olivia. I think he could see actually I could see him starting a couple games actually next year.
Do you think if they need to, they start Nate at left back? I mean,
if that happens in the Eastern Conference Final, or was Bizo? I can't remember who was playing left back.
Bizo was right. Harriel was left.
If Nate Harriel was playing left back, we could have a real conversation about that then, because he looked pretty damn good in the Eastern Conference Final.
But can he kick with his left? That's the question.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I think he, something he could work on, but I think he's got the. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's tough, obviously, being on that side as normally a right back. But I think he could get it done.
Listen, if Ray Gaddis played left back for like 4 seasons for the Union, you can play Nate Harriel there in a spot start type of thing. I don't think it's ideal, but yeah,
And somewhere Paul's rolling his eyes.
His Gaddis senses are twinkling.
Awesome stuff, guys. All right, guys, listen, that's gonna do it for another episode of Duke by the River. Thank you so much for tuning on in. We had a lot of fun. It's the off season, guys, and we're gonna find ways to keep you guys entertained. But we've actually had stuff to talk about because the Union and the league have been giving us stuff to talk about here. So make sure you guys are tapped in and subscribe. for the foreseeing of the off season here, as we will keep you guys posted with everything. Make sure you guys are also checking out Philly Sports Network. Tim is getting you guys with those articles as well. Of course, we'll keep you posted as well through Duke by the River as this all season goes on.
And I know Zach is going to get some articles on Philly
Sports Network
too. He wants to write down his striker transfer rumors stuff that he's been kind of working on. I know he's been thinking about it. So look for that too. I know everyone's always interested in when we talk about strikers. So that'll be fun.
Should be really interesting. Absolutely. Yeah. Make sure you guys check that out. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe to El Parcero Phillies YouTube channel and Philly Sports Network, as we'll be posting more of these live podcasts on there. And of course, you can find this podcast with all of your other favorite Philly Sports Network podcasts on PSN Radio, and you can find that wherever you stream podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, that Justin Garber allocation money for Heidelberg. That's that Gambay. Over there we got Tim Lovinguth. Of course, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys to dupe on. Talk to you guys next week.